The facts are pretty clear. Both judges said they didn't buy the argument. They didn't think that anything was done that was illegal, and so they've gone forward and not only said we don't buy it, they actually shut the case down. Many of the national media, and even some here in Wisconsin, are looking at the state backwards. This is a case that's been resolved, that not one but two judges have said is over, right. And we're just learning about it because it became open in a document yesterday, but there is no argument there.
Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker is either the victim of another witch hunt or he truly needs to consider serious legal assistance. The Supreme Court gets serious, dealing New Jersey Governor Chris Christie a revenue blow, one thing that might keep other states from cashing in. This and a whole lot more. Let's break it down. Legalese. Welcome into the Midpoint Studios, Chairman Emeritus of the First Amendment Lawyers Association and a co-author of the book Majority Rules. Dan Aaronson joins us right here on Midpoint today. Dan, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, but I did not author that book.
I was told that you did, but then I'll go ahead and I will put that down as a negative then on our part, but we will say that perhaps you liked the book. So
we'll go from there.
We'll go from there, but thank you, and our apologies on it. I apologize.
Not a problem.
Let's talk about the Scott Walker case here. The thing that catches me of this right away is one article I read this morning, and I hear it here. It says, a group at the center of a campaign finance investigation ensnaring Scott Walker has an emphatic retort to prosecutors examining whether its coordination with politicians was illegal. Everybody does it.
Well, that is exactly what I would say is it doesn't make it right what Scott Walker did or what his campaign did, and then I can't tell you whether it was right or wrong, and the investigation right now seems to be at a standstill. But the laws are so convoluted, they are so mixed up, they are so catch us if you can, because you never know when you're stepping over the boundaries, that whether Scott Walker did something wrong or not, I can't tell you. What I can tell you, though, it is difficult treading that line.
What is it about those laws, then, and the evolution of them that has put it at this point where, quite frankly, it seems to me that I've heard from many people, no matter how many times you read these laws, you can do it over and over and over again, it never is quite clear.
Well, the problem is that you have PACs, you have super PACs, you have campaigns. And supposedly there's supposed to be a division between the campaign and the PACs. There's supposed to be a division between the person running for office and the party itself. And there's supposed to be these divisions. But you have high money people who are investing in both, and I use the word investing because they want their candidate to win. So you have high money people who are putting money into the PACs, the super PACs. You have high money people putting money into the campaigns. You have people who are working for an elected official during the day and at night are working for a campaign, and at night are working for a super PAC. And supposedly they're supposed to be able to divvy up when they're working for one and not the other and not cross lines. And it's a physical impossibility, quite candidly. It's probably a moral impossibility, and it's appearing to be a legal impossibility from where I stand.
Is it just the fact, as some would try to boil it down to, that there are enough good oversight from the federal regulators?
There are so many campaigns. I don't think you could have enough federal oversight to regulate it properly. Then we have laws changing. You have Supreme Court rulings such as Citizens United and the recent Supreme Court cases which say money is speech and therefore you have the right to invest or put as much money you want into a campaign. Corporations are people. The law has gotten very, very convoluted, and regardless of which side of the political spectrum I stand on, I think it's hard for my side or the other side to follow the rules down the line, and I think anybody looking over the shoulder at somebody may be able to find fault.
Could you ever boil these down, though, to simple laws? I'm one of those guys. I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on TV occasionally, but I always look for the simple answers and the simple one-lines and very easy language. Could we get to that point where these laws could be rewritten like that?
Well, they could be easily, but I would be advocating something that I don't believe in. But that way would be to basically have government-funded campaigns. And you've heard about that over the years, sure. Government-funded campaigns. And that's where all the money could come from, was from the government. Then you wouldn't have that because everybody would have the same amount of money, or based upon some formula, they would be getting a certain amount of money, and you wouldn't have to worry about private donors, and you would have less of this crossover.
Knowing what we know about the Scott Walker case, and again, we don't know all the intricacies of what goes on, but just from the surface here, do you get the feeling that it is reopening something that's already been decided, that is not a big deal, as Scott Walker says, or is this something that as an attorney you would look at it and say, we should have another look in this?
I don't know enough because of what has been hidden from us. I don't know enough because of the investigation stopping at a certain point. I happen to be skeptical about our elected officials, skeptical about our law enforcement, but I do believe in our system of justice that if somebody who is in charge of doing an investigation has determined that there's reason for him to go into that, we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. That would be the district attorney in this case, the Scott Walker case. He has made a determination based upon what came before him that he should go into it. I think that we need to give him, as we would give any other law enforcement officer, the right to investigate where he thinks there's corruption, where he thinks there's crime.
All right, let's talk about crime here. Certainly in Cairo right now, we have an interesting case right now that I know that you're certainly following as well. Egypt has convicted 3 journalists, these all are from Al Jazeera's English language network, of conspiring with the Muslim Brotherhood to broadcast false reports. When you hear something like that, I mean, I'm one of those people who says never knee-jerk, always sit and wait until you hear things, but when I hear this, I do get that knee-jerk going, it's nothing here. This is just another government trying to hold back freedom of the press.
Well, obviously what we think of as freedom of the press and what they think of freedom of the press are vastly different. But let us just jump to the United States for 2 seconds. False speech is constitutionally protected in the United States. So when they say over in Egypt that they were prosecuted and convicted because of making false statements, we are allowed to make false statements. False statements, untruths, are constitutionally protected. Well, here you have a system where false statements, untruths, are not constitutionally protected. That's scary in and of itself, because who decides whether it's true or not? But more than that is the evidence that these people were convicted with. My understanding from the reports are that they were convicted, and yet there was no evidence brought forth, and the government said, we do not have the facilities or the capabilities of projecting it for the court what evidence we have. Take our word for it that these people are bad people, they are creating seditious acts, they need to be put in prison, and rubber stamp 7 to 10 years. So we have a violation of what we would consider the First Amendment, freedom of speech. We have a violation of what we'd consider the 14th Amendment, due process. We have a violation of everything that's near and dear to this country, because the First Amendment, freedoms, and due process of law through the 14th Amendment really are the core of our values. And then we now call them a great ally again. We're going to send them military equipment in the next couple of months. They're back on our dole of assistance. And, you know, whether they are good for us in some political terms, i.e. Israel, that's irrelevant to the fact that they are trampling on rights of citizens, of people, of human rights, and we need to do something about that.
Now, getting to that point right away, Secretary of State John Kerry, according to the reports, appeared stunned, was the word I heard in a couple of them, that this happened. Why would we be stunned? We know what these countries already care for as far as their freedom of speech or their freedom of the press and what it is. We shouldn't be shocked by any of this, should we?
Well, why he is stunned, I don't know, because I don't know why anybody would be stunned. That's their own personal, visceral feeling. We know what these countries are about. And in fact, you know, it's strange to me. There are good dictators and there are bad dictators. And the good dictators are the ones that are our allies, and the ones that are bad dictators are the ones that are against us. Sometimes you have good dictators that become bad dictators, such as Saddam Hussein, who was our man when we were fighting Iran, but then 10 years later, 15 years later, we got to get rid of him. He's a war criminal. Al-Sisi right now in Egypt is a good dictator as far as we are concerned.
We hope at this point.
We hope at this point. So therefore, what we're hoping to do with our good dictators is let them do what they're going to do, but do it below the surface. Don't make waves. Don't make scandal. You know, sit on the Muslim Brotherhood because that's what we want you to do, but, you know, give a veneer of protecting people's rights. Unfortunately, dictators don't always follow our lead.
When you talked about a minute left that we have here, hearing what Al-Sisi has to say, this happening, still keeping them in our friendship, doesn't this give us a window to the soul of the man and the kind of person that we're dealing with in the first place?
Yes, it does. And I don't mean to sound, I don't even know whether it's racist, which certainly I'm not, but our history in the Middle East, Northern Africa, throughout that area of the world is one replete with the people that come into power, regardless of what they say on the outside, are dictators, are power hungry, and once they get in power, anything that they espouse before they get into power gets thrown out the window. So I'm not sure it's us or a product of that way of life over there.
we simply can't manage to find the right dictators. That's the way it comes down sometimes.
Well, sometimes we think we have them, but then we lose them.
And then we lose them along the way as well. Dan, thank you so much for coming in today. We absolutely will do this again. I appreciate your comments.
You're welcome.
All right, now let's go ahead and ask everybody here. We've talked about a few things here, and again, as we always do at Newsmax, one of the things that we do when it comes to our freedom of speech and our freedom of the press is ask you, the viewer, what you think about what you hear here, and then we react. Do it by sending us a tweet, drop us an email, drop something on Facebook, and let us know what you think about doing business with Egypt, and of course, what's happening to Scott Walker in Wisconsin. And we'll talk about it right here. Because here on Midpoint, every day, we question everything.
Hello.